10 to 9. You might have heard Justin talking on Thursday morning's programme to Jill Killington, who had her baby taken from her in 1968. She was one of the many unmarried mothers who gave birth often in mother and baby homes and who were told the best thing they could do for their child was give them up for adoption. In her case, a social worker asked to hold her 10-day-old son and then took him away. She talked to us in the wake of Nicola Sturgeon making a formal apology in the Scottish Parliament for a policy that continued across the UK until 1976. Well, Dawn Maclean knows what it's like to be the other side of that story, one of the children. She was adopted shortly after she was born in 1966, and she's co-founder of the Adult Adoptee Movement. She's in our Leicester studio. Good morning, Dawn.
Oh, good morning.
What do you know about your birth and your mother?
I know very little about the circumstances around my birth. I've had access to my adoption files, but we get access to those through social workers, and they're all redacted before we get the information through. So I know that my mother was 19, she was unmarried, and so basically she was in a mother and baby home, which is where I was born. And then I've got a letter that was sent to my adoptive parents saying that they could come and collect me if they had a carry cot on the Tuesday, which was 4 weeks after I was, sort of 3 to 4 weeks after I was born. But I have no idea what happened within that time.
Right, but no longer than 3 to 4 weeks with your birth mother.
I don't even know if I had 3 to 4 weeks with her.
Because you might have been taken away earlier and then you were adopted at 3 to 4 weeks. I understand.
Yeah.
Did you grow up knowing you were adopted?
I did grow up knowing that I was adopted. I grew up with, basically, I was sort of told a bit of a lie about the circumstances around my adoption. But yes, I did always know that I was adopted.
What was the lie?
I was told that my mother and father were at university, and that was a reason for them giving me up for adoption. And yeah, that was completely not true.
And how and when did you find out it was not true?
When I got my files, because it sort of details the social workers were very keen to detail the socio sort of economic aspects of the birth parents.
But aged 18 when you were legally had access to that information?
I didn't get access until I was in my 30s. I sort of spent my 20s basically sort of sorting out my life for myself so that I could establish my own life independently. And then once I had my own children, it opened up so many questions, and that was when I had the courage to go and access the files.
Does
when
that
you're
mean,
adopted.
Dawn, I just wondered, does that mean that something felt wrong? You were not secure in your identity. You felt something was missing.
As an adoptee, you have no identity. Your birth certificate is voided. And you have an adoption certificate. So there was 500,000 adoptions in that period. And so none of us, and even current adoptees now, people say it's changed, but it hasn't. You don't have a birth certificate, you have an adoption certificate, and you're put into a family where you look absolutely nothing like them, and you are treated differently because you're adopted. So, but as an adoptee, you have to assume this sort of trying to fit in with everybody, and you have a narrative all the time of, oh, you're lucky to have been adopted. So all the time you're fitting in around other people, and then you're told, oh, don't trace your family because you might upset your adoptive family, and you don't know what the circumstances of your birth. So when you get your records from your social worker, everybody's told, oh, be careful because you might be the product of rape. So, all of this is not good for anybody's identity.
When you say your birth certificate is voided, does that mean it's redacted, or do you mean it doesn't exist? Your birth was not registered.
My birth was registered. My birth was registered with my mother's name, even though my father had admitted paternity and his full details are on the file. His name wasn't put on my birth certificate. probably just to add further shame. And then when you're adopted, when you're formally adopted, your birth certificate is voided. You're then issued with an adoption certificate. Your NHS medical record is sealed, and you're issued with a new NHS number.
So it's like it doesn't. The period before adoption just didn't happen, as far as the state's concerned.
Exist, as far as the state's concerned, yeah.
Did you ever get to meet your mother?
No, sadly, I didn't. She'd passed away. I was in contact, but before I actually sort of met her, she'd passed away from secondary breast cancer.
I'm so sorry.
So, and I'd got in touch with my family because I'd had a diagnosis of breast cancer myself, and that was what gave me the courage to actually reach out to them to find out if there was a family history.
And there was.
And basically, subsequently after I had contacted them, then my mother passed away from secondary breast cancer. But as adoptees, we face discrimination anytime we access any healthcare, because you say that you're adopted, you get an embarrassed silence, and then it's assumed that there's no extra risk.
Yeah, so that's a very practical, important aspect to this, that there's information other people have about their health that you don't have. Are you in touch, Dawn, even though you didn't get to meet your birth mother, are you in touch with other members of your birth family?
Yes, I'm in touch with my siblings. So I've been in reunion with them now for 5 years.
And what has that meant to you?
Oh, it's just absolutely huge to see people who, you grow up without any genetic mirroring. You have children, that's the first time you see somebody who resembles you. But then to meet people who look like you, who have the same mannerisms as you. People talk about nature and nurture, and there's nothing stronger than nature.
Dawn Maclean, thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
It is